Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
As I was walking down the street one day, a man came up to me and asked me what the time was that was on my watch. Yeah.
Good morning. Hard to believe we're in the middle of the week. Hard to believe tomorrow. We're all leaving, going to St. Louis. Looking forward to that football game. Looking forward to talking with our good friend Brett Norsworthy. He'll be chatting SEC football. I don't know, is he coming in or is he on the equipment, as we like to say?
I'm not sure.
I'm not either. I know he's coming. And one thing, if he says he's doing something, you can book it, baby. You can book it. So Stats will be with us. Steve Ehret's going to be with us here. I can't wait to talk to him, what he thinks about the XFL-USFL merger. And then, of course, we'll get his sense of what's going on with the stadium update. He's pretty clued in. You know, everybody goes, oh, this is Memphis Grizzlies versus Memphis Tigers. You know, last I heard, there's a bowl game that's been played here for a long time. Back when Bud Dudley brought it in the 70s. I think it might have been the 60s. I can't remember. It's called the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. They play it in that stadium. Oh, wait, did we just have like the 34th anniversary, I think it is, of the Southern Heritage Classic? You know Fred Jones, that guy? You know, he's got a game in that stadium. Last I heard, there's a spring league that plays. Well, they played 10 games in there last year, since they pretty much. Well, I don't think they played 10. Because they went to Birmingham and they went to. I bet they played 7 of their games, at least 6, because 5 home games and 1 with Houston, right?
Yeah, that's right. And plus the combination of Houston playing so many home games
so
there
it's
as
probably 7.
Yeah.
I think they went to Canton, they went to Detroit, and they went to Birmingham. So let's just say they played 10 games. They were 5-5. Let's just say that's the way that worked. 7 games. And, you know, I don't know for sure. Are the Showboats going to be included in the XFL-USFL merger? I would think they would, but who knows? Because nobody knows how many teams they're really going to have in this thing. Nobody knows if this thing will really happen. Nobody knows, except maybe Earhart does, who will be joining us, whether or not they're going to try to take in the majority of the teams. I would imagine this. Or really, who is the big party? Like you're merging, but one party remains stronger, right? When the AFL and the NFL merged, it was the NFL that was calling the shots. When the NBA and the ABA merged, it was the NBA that was calling the shots. I got a feeling, since Fox says they made money off the USFL, and most people say that the Rocks League, the XFL, lost $60 million last year, I would assume that it is the USFL that is calling the shots. The first team they're going to take, the most successful team of any of the 2 spring leagues, would be St. Louis. I think they drew a legitimate like 30,000 a game.
Yeah, that's really the only team that I remember being like such a draw like that. Overall, the television product in every USFL game, I don't even think it's an argument. I think just flatly it was a better product for television than every team except for maybe St. Louis. So that's
right.
The team with the best argument.
Right. So I'm sure St. Louis will be a part of it. We know Houston will have a team because they have a team in both leagues, but they'll only have one. It'd be interesting if they combine personnel, but that'd be kind of silly because you know what? The Houston team in the USFL, the Gamblers, right? Isn't that what they were?
That's right.
They never saw Houston. They saw Memphis. They never saw Houston, Texas. They saw Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. They all stayed in housing. I'm trying to remember where it was. It could have been, I think, like Greenbrook Bend or where the Sycamore View in Macon is, that big complex in there. I think a lot of them had housing in there. I could be making that up, though. I'm not 100% sure, but I kind of remember that was the case. So anyway, there's a lot of entities involved in that stadium. It's not just the Grizzlies versus the Tigers. And I do want to ask him about the time frame, because the more you think about it. So let's just for a second talk a little bit about what has to be passed in order for this financial division to take place. And remember, in the end, it's the city, whoever the mayor is, and I'm urging, if possible, that Jim Strickland do this before he's out of office. We know October 5th is Election Day. We know early voting has already begun. And so will Mayor Strickland just say, hey, I got the money, I got the $350, that's my legacy, now I'll let it be somebody else's burden to divide it up? Or will he take the stand and try to get this thing done before he leaves office? The problem is you got to do this by an October city council meeting. And I just don't know if it's possible. So here's where the funding comes from. And think about it. This is beyond the $350 they already get. This is how they get where I believe the Grizzlies end up with almost $500 million, and there's $220 for Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. And I'm not saying for the Tigers. And I want to point out that I know whatever happens at FedEx Forum is also for the Tigers, because they are probably the chief tenant of the Grizzlies in that building. And by the way, I heard somebody say yesterday how this is all going to help the Grizzlies. The Tigers. I don't believe that. First of all, the fans voted this one of the top 2 or 3 NBA experiences, FedEx Forum, just a year ago.
Beale Street has to be a factor in that as well.
Let's just call it as it really is, and I don't care. But this whole renovation is so that the Grizzlies can make more money. The initial way they did this is not bringing them enough premium seating. There's too many seats in the upper deck, and that's true. So that's why they want to redo this, so they can make more money. Okay? Let's call it what it is, and that's the case, because it's not a bad stadium. And by the way, the city did do a bunch of upgrades on this thing. New scoreboard. They expanded their locker rooms. They took away the press room that they had and made that a weight room for the Grizzlies. I mean, they've already done a whole bunch of stuff. It's not like they've ignored Robert Pera in all of this. But let's get back to this original thing. So, in order for this to work, you've got to pass a $60 million sales tax rebate. You've got to pass a $7 million state sales tax. So these are state things. $26 million 1% hotel tax. That's already in existence. A $52 million one's the city it's got to pass. The other's a state. One's $26 million from the city for the hotel tax. The other is for the state. So you're up in the hotel tax, both city and state, 1%. And that comes to approximately $78 million. $32 million in a car rental tax. There is a $9 million existing seat use fee and a $9.5 million new seat fee. I think that's the Grizzlies that have to agree to that. And then there's a $43 million tourism zone that I believe has to go through like the Convention and Visitors Bureau and then on to the City Council. So you've got to get state approval on these things. You've got to get city approval on these things. How can you get that done in time to get this project off the ground by January? That to me seems like almost mission impossible. We will check with our friend Steve Earhart here momentarily on all of that. Tigers, 7-point underdogs. First time they've been underdogs all year with Missouri. I'm looking forward to getting Stats' take on that. Final segment will be with Ron Higgins, our SEC historian down in Baton Rouge. Man, were they ever brutal. I mean brutal to poor Mississippi State. We'll get the take of Ron Higgins on how they took Will Rogers away and what happened to Zach Arnett's defense in all the SEC stuff. That all comes your way a little bit later in the program. I'm sitting here in the Family Leisure Studios. A reminder to you, back bigger than ever before, with 50 different models to choose from and 5 different manufacturers. They call it, Family Leisure does, the biggest spa sale in the world. That's right, the world's biggest spa sale. And they got other things like 24 months, same as cash available. They've got up to 30% off on in-stock spas and swim spas. I mean, it's big. It's huge. It's the biggest, world's biggest spa sale happening at Family Leisure. And you know our title sponsor? Well, that's Homer. Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch, where they will pledge to you that they'll take care of you, and they've been doing that for I don't know how long. The best customer retention. Well, it's simple. You've got people that have worked together for 20 years, understand the car business, understand your needs, get to know your family for the most part. We've got a guy there because we're a Homer Skelton Hyundai family. I don't know how many cars I've got in there now. And I'll even say this, Rick Fink is the guy. He knows my family because we've all gotten cars from him. And they make it so easy, and if anything goes wrong, they're there to help you that quickly, that make you want to do business with them. And that's why customer retention is so good. Easier to get to now than ever. They fixed Highway 78, Lamar. That tough stretch when you're going into Mississippi. But now they got underpasses, and it's really cool. It's getting better. It's going to be incredible when it's finished, but it's already fast. All you got to do is get to the first exit, Mississippi Craft Road, turn left, go see Chris True and that gang I talk about all the time with that great product of Hyundais at Homer Skelton Hyundai. We go to East Memphis. Our friend Steve Earhart is standing by. What was your first take yesterday when you saw the news about the XFL, USFL merger? Good morning.
Well, that was going to be a given. There's not room for 2 competing spring leagues, so I predicted that they would get together, and it's a great situation for new jobs for players and coaches, and giving some opportunities to young men and coaches as well. But there wasn't room to be having 2 competitors, so I think they'll get together. And my guess, I don't know any of the details, but my guess is that Fox will be the whip hand there, and the XFL will be a minority partner going forward. But, I think it bodes well for, having a good product. And that may lead me to one of my points here about I think the showboats will certainly continue here in Memphis and even be stronger for the wear.
That was my next question. So you don't think Memphis would be ousted out of this? Well, they were a hub city, so you would assume that they would be in. Birmingham would be in, probably Detroit. What was funny was that Canton drew pretty well, and it didn't have their own team. I wonder if they would move a team there. And you're certainly taking St. Louis. Will these games have any home on ESPN, or will this strictly be Fox because you think it's the USFL? As you said, I like that with the whip hand.
But again, I'm simply speculating, but I would certainly think that there'll be a sharing of the telecast, much like the NFL, where there's some games on ESPN and ABC, and some on CBS, and some on NBC. So they'll work out a plan that I think you'll have games on both Fox and ESPN, and maybe on NBC as well. So I think this is strictly speculating on my part, thinking what makes sense economically.
Yeah, I get that. I certainly hope Memphis keeps that team. That's for certain, and I don't see why it wouldn't. They just agreed to a 2-year contract extension.
Yes, and with the city and David, I'm a little bit fired up today. I want to talk about some facts about the stadium issues, which is on everybody's mind here these days in Memphis. So if you can let me ramble for a few points and talk some real facts about the whole situation.
I would love to hear them. I just went over all of the taxes and fees that have to be passed by either the state or the city, and they want to do it by October. It seems like almost mission impossible. So let's start there. What's your intel?
Okay, what I'd like to do is put out some facts here so that people can talk about it. I know you're down the road with a lot of A to B to C to D, but here's some facts. One, the stadium is 60 years old. The FedEx Forum is 19 years old. There's the stadium has four very important tenets, which you just talked about. One of them, it's not just about the university versus the Grizzlies. There's certainly the university is a key and important tenet of the stadium. We have the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, which has been going for 60 years and brought more people to Memphis than any other single event, and it's had a great economic impact. The Southern Heritage has been going on for more than 30 years, a very important tenet of the stadium. And then, of course, the showboats that you just talked about that might not have had a lot of traction here locally, but the television, focus on Memphis was pretty doggone important last year. So you got four tenants in the stadium. You got a stadium that's 60 years old that needs a lot of work versus a 19-year-old facility, which is pretty doggone good. I think, David, you said on your show about how the FedEx Forum had been voted one of the best experiences for fans in the entire NBA. And this is not just about the University of Memphis, whether they're getting ready or not getting ready to be in a conference. It's about the people of Memphis and having an opportunity for all four of those tenants to have a good quality situation. Another point is that the city has done a great job in moving forward on really building out Liberty Park. All the work that's been done out there. People that have been out there have seen what they've done there. The building, the new sports and events center. They put all that millions of dollars into getting ready for the development of Liberty Park. It would be a shame to say, okay, well, the stadium, which is the centerpiece of that whole project, not to put the kind of improvements in that's needed there. Another point is that the city, not just the university, but the city has moved very far forward on engaging architects, bidders. Contracts have been in the process of being bid out. There's several different architectural firms, including several here in Memphis, and there's been millions of dollars already spent on planning for the improvements of the stadium, whereas the Grizzlies have not yet, set forth what is actually needed at FedEx Forum.
Let me stop you there for 1 second. Some people have implied that the Grizzlies are just not in the same hurry, and they're not happy that Memphis, the university, has put the pressure on them to get this going. Now, they did say in a letter that we saw that they should decouple the money, the projects, and that they would be okay with that.
And that's, David, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's why I just stepped forward those 4 points. Why they shouldn't be tried to be pieced together and put together this very complicated A to B to C to D and what the state legislature passed, because that's why I pointed out the needs of the stadium, the process are different, and there's certainly a lot of differences between these two facilities. So I think that we just need to move forward. The Grizzlies take their time, get what they need there. Again, I have not seen yet what they actually, there's been a lot of talk about what they may or may not want to have happen to the FedEx Forum, but there's such a difference of the needs of the stadium for the four tenants that I talked about versus what the Grizzlies are looking for. So, yes, I'm glad, and it shouldn't be a conflict between the university and the Grizzlies for sure. And that's where, again, it certainly should be decoupled, in my opinion, because of what we just said, that all the work is ready to go to break ground here, right after the AutoZone Liberty Bowl game, which is this year on December 29th. So,
all right, so
they're totally different.
If
they're
we're
totally
talking,
different situations.
Okay, so let's say we're going to decouple it, and I'm 100% in agreement with you on this. What do? Do you take the $350 that you know is cash in the bank from the state, and do you give the Grizzlies $175 of that, and then pledge the majority of that money that's going to come from these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different areas of funding that I've pointed out already, and let them have that or the majority of that, and just split the $350 down the middle, $175?
David, I think that's a great recommendation. I hope all your listeners, you're an astute guy. You've been in this city for 40-some years. You're watching the sports scene. You're loyal to both the university and to the Grizzlies, and I think we got to get off of this thing. It's either the university versus the Grizzlies, and they're at different stages in their process. Just like I said, stadium's 60 years old, the FedEx Forum's 19 years old. There's much differences there, and we're proud and happy that Mayor Strickland and folks went over to Nashville and said, okay, we need some state money. And that was based on the fact that the people in Nashville were giving what I can't remember whether it's $500 or $600 million to the Titans over there for a brand new stadium. And of course, the Adams family is putting in $600 million to do that, to match what or I think match. I mean, I'm trying to misquote that, but I certainly know the Adams family is putting in a major contribution to the building of that new stadium. So,
well, and I should point out the Tampa Bay Rays have just announced a new $1.2 billion stadium in St. Pete, and that ownership group is pledging 50% of it.
And that's something that, it's totally different for, the Grizzlies certainly control, and they manage the building. In fact, the University of Memphis is a tenant of the Memphis Grizzlies, because the Grizzlies have control of the buildings, so the concerts and so on. So they're two totally different situations, whereas the city actively manages Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, and they have contracts with, as I say, the four entities, and, they run that. So it's a totally different situation there. And so I think your suggestion, David, they got money from the state when they were trying to help the folks here in Memphis and be fair to somewhat. I'm not sure Nashville legislation is always fair to Memphis, but at least the 350 was for both entities. So I think your suggestion, don't try and solve every single thing right now when it hasn't been clarified. Split, like you say, split it down the middle. Put 175 for in a trust for the stadium. Let the stadium get going, and it's not just the university building it; it's the city of Memphis who is running the show on the architects and the consultants and all that kind of thing. Let them get going, and then let the Grizzlies have 175, like you said, half of that in their pot, and then they can work down the road with all these different tax incentives and the issues that need to be dealt with, both city and county and state level. There's a lot of work to be done to go above and beyond that $350 million. So I think your suggestion is great. I hope your listeners, Dave, will take your suggestion at heart and get out there and let the mayor know that this is a good solution, and trying to bring a closure here in short time for all these futuristic things, which we don't even know what they're about.
All right,
so,
one last thing. Let's clear this up, and if you can do it in a minute, I'd appreciate it. And it's a simple question, and you have knowledge because you're a former owner on the private on the local side of the Grizzlies. What's the right of the local ownership group? I know they got a right of first refusal on if there's an attempt to move the team, or what's the language in there that the local group can activate to buy the team from Para if needed?
My understanding, David, and you're right, I have not been part of the ownership group the last couple of years, but my understanding is the local ownership group, if there is an effort to move the team, that the local group has the right to match any attempt to move. But I don't even think it gets to that point, David. My experience with the NBA is it takes I'm not certain whether it's a 2/3 or a 3/4 vote.
I think it's 75%.
Okay, so the 3/4 vote. And the owners are not going to let, it doesn't have anything to do with the Grizzlies, the owners aren't going to let anybody move and take a very valuable, but what I would call virgin cities, like people keep talking about Las Vegas or Seattle, about if the NBA thinks they can get $2.5 billion for each franchise as selling, expansion franchises, put that in the barrel,
right,
split it up 30 ways, and it's several $100 million for each team.
$5 to $6 billion reasons why. Steve Arrott on the money. We thank you. We'll do this again next week.
Thank you, David.
That's Big Cheat, head honcho of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, brought to you by Conway. Conway Services, 384-3511. Hey, you don't want to start your day with a cold shower. You got that old, inefficient tanked water heater. Don't use that.
Unless you talk to John Thompson, Dave. He likes his cold showers.
He does. That's true. And if you want, then we got an old tanked water heater we can give you at Conway. But I would get the new tanked because they're more efficient. But really, I would get the tankless. And if you go tankless, you could be up to $2,000 rebate coming your way from the federal government. 384-3511, the tankless water heaters. Much more affordable new technology. You never run out of hot water. It's a deal. 384-3511, Conway Services. Our friend, Stats Norsworthy, he comes your way in just a minute.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Cooling or heating system on the fritz? Dripping faucet? Call the pros at Conway Services today and we'll waive the service call fee with any HVAC or plumbing repair. Expert technicians available 7 days a week. Call 384-3511 to schedule your appointment. Visit conwayservices.com for details, terms, and conditions. License number 64210, 64365 EAS, MS 19688.
Call 384-3511. Conway Services. Call Conway today.
WeatherGuard, the name that stands for unmatched security in truck boxes, is now making a name for itself on the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series circuit. WeatherGuard is the official sponsor of the safety and security work crews at Speedway Motorsports tracks across the country. Engineered to meet the demands from job sites to race sites, WeatherGuard truck boxes feature double welded seams, weather-tight seals, and high-security latches and locks. If it's a job worth doing, it's a job worth WeatherGuard. Learn more at weatherguard.com/truck.
All 36 months, 650 acquisition fee, 4T LSX, PE 678605, MSRP 21610, Nero P507859, MSRP 41090, EV6 P5610964, MSRP 49687, includes all rebates and incentives, must finance through Hyundai, excludes tax title and license. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through 10/2/2023 with approved credit. Dealers.com.
Hey, Jeff Allen, I hear Gossett Kia South on Mount Moriah is about to blow my socks off.
That's right, Randy. Get 41 MPG Highway with the 2023 Kia Forte LXS, $229 a month, $29.99 due at signing.
What about those cool new EVs?
I've got EV action with the 2023 Nero EV Win SUV, 253 miles of EPA, estimated range $269 a month, $49.99 due at signing. And the 2023 Kia EV6 Win, 134 city, 101 highway MPGE, $399 a month, $49.99 due at signing. Plus, you'll get a free charger with every EV purchase, all 36-month lease.
And Kia's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
So whether you live in Horn Lake, South Haven, Olive Branch, or Memphis, you'll be happy at Gossett Kia on Mount Moriah.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Lonely feeling deep inside. Find a corner.
Oh, man, is there ever a great game on Saturday? And I'm not talking Memphis and Missouri. We'll get into that. I'm talking Ole Miss and Alabama right here on Sports 56 at 12:30. And starting things off, that'll be our friend. That'll be Brett Norsworthy, who's standing by. Hey, Mr. Stats, last I looked, the three teams that were picked above Ole Miss in the SEC West, they've all lost. What an opportunity for the Rebels. Do you think they can win the West? Good morning.
I think they can. They got to play. They got to play really well. They got to play their. Good morning. They got to play their best game of the year this week, even with a very wounded, and I think wounded psychologically, wounded chemistry-wise, like we've never seen in the Nick Saban dynasty Alabama team. Now, we thought all this 2 years ago. 2 years ago at this time had Matt Corral and a good team, a team that ended up winning 10 regular season games before losing in the Sugar Bowl. And we go to Tuscaloosa feeling frisky. It was 35-0 before you could, shall we say, get your popcorn ready.
Yeah. There was a really interesting story. This was more on the surprise slippage of Nick Saban and his Alabama team this year with new offensive coordinator that Blake Topmeyer wrote. Pertaining to how Nick Saban really misses Lane Kiffin. I thought that was interesting. Do you buy that?
I do buy it. I think he misses Lane Kiffin. I think he misses Steve Sarkisian. I think he misses Jimmy McElwain. But I think his best chemistry with an offensive coordinator and kind of into the modern, this level of run-pass option and a lot more passing was Lane Kiffin in 14, 15, and 16, and what he did with Blake Sims, what he did with Jalen Hurts, and what he did in changing the Alabama offense. When Nick Saban hires a new coordinator, they don't bring their plan to Tuscaloosa. This is not the Tommy Rees offense. He hires Tommy Rees and he says, "You're running our offense. You're running my plan, and this is the plan." And I don't know if it's fit that well. And Tyler Buckner, his guy from Notre Dame, was dreadful Saturday, and it could go down in one of the more anonymous starting quarterbacks in the history of Alabama. That Blake Barnett way back when got a start, and Cooper Bateman and Tyler Buckner. It was dreadful against South Florida that I don't think is very good.
I tend to agree with you. They may be better than we thought, and Memphis is going to have to play them later this year. But I am shocked at what's going on there. They can't find a quarterback. They're going back to the original one that did not make it work for them in the very beginning. Are you surprised at the Ole Miss slippage? Are you surprised that both LSU and A&M all have losses early in the season?
Ole Miss slippage or Alabama?
No. Alabama's slippage and the fact that they, LSU, and A&M all have losses early in the year.
I'm not surprised that LSU lost to Florida State, but how they lost, just really utterly dismantled in the second half. Now, they rebounded last week against Mississippi State on the road in Starkville and really pounded State. Looked like maybe as advertised in the preseason. Well, that's against Mississippi State. It wasn't against Florida State. Now, they're at home against Arkansas this week, and Arkansas, they're kind of reeling and facing a daunting schedule over the next 4 or 5 weeks. It could really, the whole complexion of the Razorback season could really change in the next few weeks. A&M, it surprised me how they played at Miami, really the effort and the lack of all those players being able to do it. They gave up 48 to Miami. And now they host Auburn in College Station really early Saturday morning, 11 o'clock game. And Auburn's one of the surprise 3-0 teams among the 39 teams. They're one of 3 SEC teams undefeated but still unranked.
Are you surprised that Hugh Freeze has turned this around so quickly? I mean, this is interesting. You got Jimbo and you got Freeze going at it.
Yeah, I had Coach Freeze and Auburn starting 3-0, and the two easy ones, UMass and Sanford at home, and the West Coast trip to Cal. That was an ugly game, but they got the win. This week's the first time I had Auburn losing, and then next week when they play Georgia, the South's oldest rival, when they host Georgia at home at Jordan-Hare. But the schedule gets a lot tougher for Hugh Freeze and Auburn. He knows that, and this year is kind of a just anything goes year. But yeah, and deservingly, that the roster was really depleted under Brian Hartson, and he's doing a good job with this. I still think it'd be tough for Auburn to scratch out any more than about a 7-win season, but they could.
I just love
that Iron Bowl looks different now than it did
it sure does.
in the halcyon days of SEC media days.
Yeah. I somehow I think Nick Saban's going to right the ship there, and
I do too. Best coach, best home field advantage, hand-picked players that everybody that's got a football team wanted. Again, I feel really good about the Ole Miss chances for Saturday, but it feels a lot like 2 years ago. A lot's going to be put on Jackson Dart, and we know in the Saban Bama years, your quarterback, he can't just be kind of the handoff, get a good play in. He's got to be rainmaker. He's got to be Superman that day. Okay, maybe Jackson Dart doesn't have to be Johnny Manziel or Cardale Jones, but he at least has to be Bo Wallace or Chad Kelly, who both got wins over Coach Saban.
That's the reason why I think Ole Miss can win this game. It comes down to
the better quarterback.
In this day and age, you got to have a quarterback. And
you have to have a quarterback.
I'm not convinced Alabama does, especially after what we saw in Tampa. So
I'm not either, but they have a really good running game. Roydell Jones and Jason McClellan, really good running game, traditional running game. But Ole Miss is almost going to dare them to throw the ball and make Milroe play from the pocket. Can he? We know he can scramble. He did against Middle Tennessee State and Rick Stockstill, but can he against SEC? And the Ole Miss rush defense has not been that rugged this year. It's going to have to be a lot better than it was at Tulane and even at times against Georgia Tech. Ole Miss can win this game, but it's got to play its best game of the year and then turn around next week and get LSU at home.
Yeah, that's murder. And the other thing is, if they do run that quarterback, because the way defenses are set up, you're not really accounting for that running quarterback in a game where you're trying to make them pass. And if they run, because they haven't really set up run plays that I've seen for him. If they do incorporate that, that'll be an interesting, I think, thing to watch.
Kind of just a straight quarterback draw.
Yes, yeah, that will be kind of fun. What happened in the Florida-Tennessee game? Did you see that coming?
I did not. You know what I thought about Tennessee? It was one of the really poor Tennessee efforts of all time to go down there and get run out of the ballpark by, I still think, a very average Florida team. A Florida team that only rushed for 13 yards on that Thursday night game against Utah, running at will against Tennessee's defense. And we were expecting Joe Milton to be Super Joe, and he was very average Joe, utterly average Joe against Florida. And I said it last week before the game. This isn't Tennessee going to Florida and facing Steve Spurrier or Urban Meyer or even Ron Zook. They were facing Billy Napier, desperate for his signature win, and he gets it, and they did it easily. Tennessee this week at home against Texas San Antonio. If Frank Harris is healthy, he was in a boot, and the big reason, I think the big part of why they lost to Army last week for Texas San Antonio, but that game could get uncomfortable late in the game for Tennessee, and we know Tennessee fans will boo them.
I'm shocked that
they booed Peyton Manning as a freshman. They'll sure boo Joe Milton.
Oh yeah, I'm really shocked by the way the military academies continue to confound teams. Like Memphis was confounded a bit by Navy with that option, and same thing with Army here. It's incredible that with all the intricacies that
and Air Force having a good year.
Yeah, how well they do going back to a game that was played in the 50s.
I think it could work as a base offense, but I think it destroys you in recruiting. What people would go and do, well, first of all, you're not signing any receivers, but what people would do to you if you're, running the wishbone at Ole Miss, what State would do, and vice versa if State ran the wishbone. I think it would work as a base offense, but you'd have to have a lot of running backs, and it would really change how you recruited offensive linemen. It would almost be a deal breaker to sell them on you can go to the NFL through here playing offensive line in a wishbone offense.
All right, let me get to the Memphis game with Missouri. Missouri carried the SEC banner last week. They beat a team on a
probably the best win of the year.
Sharfield against a ranked team, right? So,
the gold star win of the year for the SEC.
Tigers on a neutral. Let's put
that is
little quotation marks on that.
That is neutral as Legion Field was when Auburn would play Tennessee at home there.
But the Tigers are only 7-point underdogs. Man, I look at their defensive line, how huge it is. Their tight ends. Their tight ends like average 6'5", 250. They're starting. They're two tight ends.
That defense, just the eye test is very impressive. And Dave, last week, I was wanting the Mizzou win, not just for the SEC.
You were,
but it set up this drama. You wouldn't have this game may not be noticed in St. Louis without it being undefeated against undefeated. We get it, and we get to see a really good measuring stick for Ryan Silverfield and his team. And I think the Tigers have a real chance here, especially if Brady Cook is as iffy as it sounds like that he is. And when we know everybody, when you go to backup quarterback, look, there's a reason why he was the backup and wasn't the starter. And Cook, I think, a big time player. The quarterback play in the SEC this year it has been really average. It's hard to find 3 or 4 really good ones. LSU quarterback was great against State, but he wasn't against FSU. KJ Jefferson at times, Brady Cook at times, Jackson Dart at times. Joe Milton was pretty good against UVA. I think Connor Wegman's statistics have been padded mostly against New Mexico and UL Monroe. So how good can the backup really be?
Well, here's the thing. The backup, he might have been a heralded guy coming up. I don't really know that much about Sam Horn, but I know this. The other guy has taken a lot of passes. He's throwing 70%. This guy has only thrown 5 passes. One was a touchdown. One was a pick. 5 passes. I'd rather play
experience
him.
like experience.
I'd rather play him.
That's right. And you could get into maybe a sleepy dome atmosphere early in the game, and quick starts for Ole Miss at Tuscaloosa and for the Memphis Tigers in Mizzou, I think imperative. Almost impossible to pull off those upsets if you're battling uphill all day.
All right, let me switch sports for just 1 second. Last thing for our friend Brett Norsworthy. You listen to Stats and to Bryant Dacus every day, 3 to 6 on Sports Time. High hard one, okay? You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Adam Wainwright, 200 wins. I love it. 42 years old. He got those 2 wins this week to get to 200. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Dave, you know my litmus test for that. If you have to think about it, I don't think that he is. And I have to think about it, but I think he is a Hall of Famer. At some point, he's not first ballot. He's not in 5 years. It might even be that long wait when he's in his 60s or so.
You talking Veterans Committee?
Possibly. But because you see the players out there now, and I heard you, and you're so right with Tim Doolin talking about, nobody's ever approaching 300 again. Nobody's I don't think anybody getting near 3,000 strikeouts. Not many more getting there. So we've changed the markers for it, and he was out there in a critical time for his team. And you saw, and I like it, your adage. Can you explain 2006 to 2023 baseball without Adam Wainwright prominently in the conversation? I don't think you can. So that means Hall of Fame, and these markers have changed.
Here's what my sense is. This is the true litmus test to the way the baseball writers really feel about the way the game is now. Because here's a guy, 17 years, starting in 06.
One team.
Starting in 06, that's the era of specialization. It was in vogue. It was in place. It's the way the game is now played, where a starter goes 5 innings. So that was in vogue. He got to 200. So is that the new marker for the Hall of Fame? Personally, I think it is.
I think it is, and you lay it out well, and it really made me think, listening to you and Tim discuss it, and I hope he is a Hall of Fame human, in the Cardinals Red Jacket Hall of Fame, and he's going to have Adam Wainwright Day October 1st. Cardinals already announced he's not going to pitch again this year. I think that last day, late innings, you could even see him in at first base. You could see him in at second base, and you could even see him DH and go to the bat. He was a good hitter for a pitcher.
Yeah. I saw the post-game interview he did after he got that 200th, and he went 7 innings. He goes, the last 2 or 3 innings, the only way I made it was because the fans got me
Pure
through.
fumes.
I was totally gassed. Yeah.
Man, he was gassed. He was laboring. It's been rough to watch, and we're going to watch him on TV. He's going to be the next big thing in baseball analysis.
I bet that's right. Mr. Norsworthy, thank you much. We appreciate it.
We'll
talk to you on your show on Tuesday and my show next Wednesday.
You got it. Enjoy the Lou.
All right, I will. That is Brett Norsworthy. Don't hesitate. Make sure you keep it here 3 to 6 to listen to him on Sports Time. It's brought to you in part by Grind City Brewing, home of what the doctor ordered. That's Poppy's Pills. This is a local beer. You know it by now. Downtown, beautiful grounds. Modern-looking brewery outside our picnic grounds, right on the river. You see the bridge, beautiful. You get to view the skyline. It's terrific, just like their product. Poppy Pills is that Pilsner that is their number one seller, but the God Hopper's right up there. That's the pale ale. There's a couple of new ones. They're not so new anymore, but the amber lager called the Thaddeus and the Blue Moonish type of thing, the Belgian-style wheat ale, the Belga. People love that. All part of Grind City, taking care of beerness in Memphis. And this portion of the show is brought to you by Memphis Public Golf. They got so much going on with new projects. They finished Pine Hill. Go see Will Keys. I'm going to tell you, Fox Meadows has gotten a lot of play. You can hardly tell. It is in such good shapes. Go see Ali. He's the guy. He's always hanging around. You will love Fox Meadows. Can't wait to see when Audubon is done because it's getting better and better. I like to drive through. I tell everybody this Cherry Road so I see what's going on and how they build a golf course. You will be amazed. And because that's closed, and they just opened up Pine Hill. The best way to get the tee time you want is early in the week by going to Memphis publiclinks.com. That's Memphis publiclinks.com. There's better play every day on the Memphis Public Links. Back in a minute to Baton Rouge we go. More SEC stuff from Ron Higgins.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Wherever you are, stay tuned in to Real Sports Talk. Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Start your day the right way at La Palapa with the biggest, baddest breakfast burrito around. Chorizo, cheese, rice, beans, and eggs served with fresh salsa, and it's served all day. La Palapa has daily lunch specials, all served with rice and beans, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Try a torta, breaded chicken, steak, chorizo, or ham served with mayo, avocado, lettuce, tomato, and jalapenos, all in a hoagie. Plus amazing soups and dinner entrees, all at La Palapa, 5255 Summer Avenue. La Palapa, the little hut with big taste.
Jeep Adventure Days and Ram Power Days are going strong at Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat on the Pike. And if you're ready to save big bucks, we Gossett! Show off your style in 2023 Fiat 500X Pop 4-door. Gossett priced at $28,990 or $354 a month with 0% APR. Or take your pick with 2023 Jeep Renegade or 2023 Dodge Charger, now just $422 a month. And if you're looking for big savings on your 2023 Ram 1500, get to Gossett for just $587 a month. And if we don't have it, Gossett can order it today. So drive past the rest and come to the best at Gossett on the Pike, or shop online at GossettMotorCars.net.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
All 3500 Elmas financed through Chrysler. Pop PP 988,763. MSRP 31,355. Renegade PPP 45,607. MSRP 30,500. Charger PH 508,657. MSRP 35,930. Ram PN 693 3965. MSRP 48,330. Includes all rebates and incentives. PF 695. Excludes tax, title, and license. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through 9/30/2023 with approved credit. Dealer stock only.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, this is Lauren Choate with Choate's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Plumbing. Choate's is offering some amazing specials for this month only. If you're considering upgrading your furnace before the cold weather comes, Choate's is offering $1,000 off a new Carrier furnace. If you don't need a new furnace, Choate's is now offering its early bird $60 furnace tune-up. This 22-point tune-up includes a free carbon monoxide test and heat exchanger inspection. And Choate's is your indoor air quality expert. For the best quality air for you and your family, it's recommended to have your air ducts cleaned every 8 years. This month only, Choate's will install a free UV light system when you get your air ducts cleaned, a $500 value. Call us at 347-8086 to take advantage of these amazing deals. So, turn to the experts with Choate's, and remember, let our family serve your family.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
To Baton Rouge we go. Our SEC historian Ron Higgins standing by. What a game in Starkville. You guys just absolutely beat up on the poor Bulldogs in Starkville. Have you ever seen, in all the years that you've been covering college football and the SEC here, Mobile, Baton Rouge now, a better performance than Jaden Daniels setting the record, 88.2% accuracy, 30 of 34, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Zach Arnett defense? I mean, that's pretty amazing to me. Good morning.
Good morning. The guy's a really good quarterback. He's starting he's really focused in and is taking what the defense gives him and takes his shots downfield when he gets them. You get 30 for 34. Hit his first 13 passes, threw his 14th away under pressure, and then continued on. LSU. I know people. I mean, they got a rock in the first game. They've come back since then. They got another big game this week against Arkansas, who I know Arkansas lost last weekend, but I watched the game and they killed themselves with penalties. I don't think Arkansas is as bad as people think they are. I think they're pretty decent, and I think LSU understands that. They always play LSU hard. It'd be a good game this weekend, but Jay Daniels is probably the best quarterback in this league. Right now, that could change, but it's interesting. All the teams that you expected to be really good, besides Georgia, say Alabama or Tennessee, they're basically being held back by quarterback play. I mean, that's hurting. If they get that solved, they'll be better, honestly.
So, Alabama's playing Ole Miss this week. If we go by that theory, Alabama is going back to their first quarterback. They've struggled so badly there. Jackson Dart, if Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the league, somebody's going to make a case for Jackson Dart being number
absolutely.
2. Do you think Saban falls at the hands of his old assistant, Lane Kiffin, 12:30 on Saturday?
I mean, they should. I'm not saying they will. But all indications mean Ole Miss is Jackson Dart is vastly improved from last year. I think he's probably the most improved player in the league. I think he's played great this year. He was really tough in the Tulane game. If LSU gets through this week, you got LSU Ole Miss next week in Oxford, a week from Saturday, which is going to be a great game at 5:00 in Vaught Hemingway. This week, I never count out Nick. I know he's kind of gone back and forth on quarterbacks. I'm not going to go with anything right now. I'm going to take a look at it, but I tell you, it'll be a great game. Like I said, I don't count out Nick, but Ole Miss is. I think they're right in the top 3 or 4 in this league right now. They're playing really well.
Well, they've never had a better opportunity to take over the West because the 3 teams picked in front of them, your team, Alabama, A&M, they all got a loss. Ole Miss does not.
That's true. So, again, this is a really good opportunity for Ole Miss. This is a good opportunity for Ole Miss to do something that really hadn't been done in a long, long time. I don't know if Lane Kiffin was even born the last time Ole Miss won the SEC championship. I don't think so.
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, that was like 1962, I think, or 63.
Yeah, that's probably right.
And so, Lane was born in 75. So, no, yeah. So, I think Ole Miss has got a really nice shot here. The rest of the league is, aside from Georgia, and Georgia's been okay. Not the Georgia we've seen in the past, but they got a ton of talent, and their quarterback's okay. But I think their door's open in this league.
South Carolina gave them a scare. I mean, that was a 27.5-point line, and that was never in doubt that South Carolina was going to cover. And I don't think this is a very good South Carolina team, really.
No, and so I think the door is open for the SEC championship this year. I think it really is. It's not as close as you thought it would be in preseason. You're starting to see some cracks from different teams, and it's a long year. Teams adjust. Teams get better. Teams get worse because of injuries. Teams survive injuries. It's a long year, and you got to let it play out. So anybody who panicked early, you just kind of let it play out. Anybody who played great early, don't take for granted it's going to be that way in November.
You covered a lot of Tennessee-Florida games when you were at the Commercial Appeal. You mentioned quarterback play, and that's a part of Tennessee's problem, but could you believe their defense? They let Etienne run all over the place. Florida looked like the much better team.
Yeah, Florida came out. I just think I think they want this game more. I think they played with more desperation than Tennessee did. I think Tennessee thought, we're going to be okay. Our defense can get us by until, our quarterback play's not going to be that bad. Well, it was that bad. And I think Florida played with more desperation than Tennessee because Florida hasn't played well at all this year, and they questioned their head coach selection, and they came out and played hard, proved their point. Again, that was last week. This week is a whole new week in the SEC. I mean, that's what I love about this league. I mean, right when you think you got it figured out, you don't have it figured out.
That's true. I still can't figure out how Arkansas, which your guys are going to play this week, could allow a BYU team that is very questionable, honestly, to hang with them and then ultimately beat them. And there was very little good defense played. You mentioned all the penalties, a lack of discipline. It looked terrible.
They had like 15 or 16 penalties, like 5 or 6 in the fourth quarter. Last drive, when they had chances, that they killed themselves with penalties. You can't keep doing that. The best running back is still out. He's hurt. Rocket Sanders. He's still got an injury. Right. He's out. But I know Arkansas really wants this game. Last year they barely lost to LSU in Fayetteville. LSU was coming off the Alabama game. Jay Daniels was sick. He didn't play very well. LSU barely won. KJ Jefferson was out. He didn't play. So I know KJ Jefferson feels like he owes LSU one this year. LSU lost to Arkansas 2 years ago in Baton Rouge. This is always a good game. All the games have been really close lately between these teams. I expect this one to be that way.
Well, I don't know. In Baton Rouge, without Rocket, after what they did against BYU, I would think LSU would win.
I don't believe there's like a 19-point spread. I don't believe that.
That's crazy.
I don't buy that.
Yep. All right. Last thing, real quick. The Tigers of Memphis, 7-point underdogs in St. Louis against Missouri. What do you think happens there?
Missouri's coming off a big win. I think Memphis will give them. I don't know if Memphis will win. I think they'll give them a good game. When you come off a win like Missouri had, you have a tendency to feel really good about yourself. But I think that Memphis has got nothing to lose, man. Just go play ball. I really do. I
agree.
I think Missouri's gangbusters, and also when you don't win from week to week, or you have that, I guess, winning mentality, it's tough for you to handle wins. When you win a big game, you don't know how do you handle that the next game. That's why I always question about teams that don't consistently win. So that's my question about Missouri this week. Do you handle that big win last week like you're supposed to win this week? Or do you just celebrate a little bit too long? Memphis has got nothing to lose this week, nothing at all. And they're not playing at Missouri; they're playing in St. Louis. I think it's even better.
Ron Higgins, as always, our SEC historian. We thank you. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
All right, Wolo, take care.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye. That's our guy. He's brought to you by Dinstall's. The caramel apple season is here at Dinstall's. All your favorites. There's just so many ways to go. The original, you could say like your base offense with Dinstall's caramel apples. It's just the caramel, which is fantastic. Always fresh fruit. And that caramel, nobody does caramel better than Dinstall's. Now you can go a little crazy and you do it with pecans. Lots of people do that. But wait, there's the caramel with chocolate. There's the caramel, chocolate, and cashew crunch. Are you kidding me? Nobody does that. And the ultimate, the turtle apple, caramel, pecans, and chocolate. If you want to throw cashew crunch on that, go ahead. It's crazy. They got it at all the stores and they're all open. Laurelwood, the whole new look. Where they make it. Oh, yeah, that's always fun to go to Pleasant View. Then there's downtown, that little quaint store. There's Germantown. There's Collierville. Sweetness everywhere for over 100 years, The taste of Memphis, Dinstall's. We'll see you tomorrow. Johnny Radio is next. Have a great day, everybody.